Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of TCG Talk, back today with another video. And in today's video, we're going to be going over the recent scheduled ban announcement update as well as the Living Legend update, kind of giving our general thoughts, what my overall perceptions of it are, what does it mean for the game, and just hopefully give you as a community a platform to kind of voice your opinions as well. So definitely feel free to leave a comment down below whether you agree or disagree with some of my opinions. But we'll get right into it. If you're new to the channel, welcome. Thank you so much for stopping by. Feel free to check out my other videos. We're doing amazing this month, uploading daily content, looking to do that for the rest of the year as we go to close to 3K subs. So if you're not subbed to the channel and you've watched a couple of my videos and you think the content's worth it, definitely leave a like, comment, or subscribe. If not, it's totally fine. But yeah, we'll get right into it. So we have two things here. We have the scheduled ban announcement, which everyone was, knowing was coming, and then we have the Living Legend update. So we'll start with the scheduled ban suspended announcement because it's nothing too crazy. Everybody knew that Lexi was going to be ascended into Living Legend format as of November 6th. So yesterday at the time of recording this, 2 days ago at the time you watch it. But yeah, Lexi now is Living Legend, as well as Voltaire. Strike Twice is now no longer allowed in the classic constructed format. Also of note, Bullseye Bracers has now been moved from suspended to legal, which means Azalea and Riptide players, you can rejoice. You finally get your arm piece back that got taken away from you. That had nothing to do with you. But yeah, this will help a lot with Azalea and Riptide both. Just makes those heroes that much stronger. Has another tech piece, especially in the Dromai matchup, makes it a lot more better to deal with on those really go wide turns. And even in the aggro matchups really helps. I mean, Bullseye Bracers is a super powerful equipment piece for Ranger, and it's good that they have it back. Of note also, Soul Reaping was suspended for Chain. This is interesting. I don't really have an opinion on this. Chain is going to Living Legend this season no matter what. Because of the Living Legend changes, which we'll talk about here in a second, there is over 2,000 potential points allocated in Skirmish season, which means Chain is going to Living Legend. Him getting rid of Soul Reaping doesn't really do that much. They say here that Soul Reaping doesn't influence every game, but when things do line up, Chain Specialization allows him to reach ceilings that, when combined with his incredibly consistent offensive output, presents a level of output that is insurmountable. So basically, they're trying to take away a piece that almost can't be defended when it hits up correctly, which I get. It's fine. To me, it doesn't matter. Chain's going to Living Legend anyway. I think they're just trying to make the play experience a little bit better potentially. So that's that. But that's the scheduled ban suspended announcement. The only thing we were wondering is, were they actually going to take off Bullseye Bracers once Lexi Living Legend? And they did. So now it is legal. So that's the big thing. Now we're getting into what everybody cares about right now, which is the Living Legend update. So I'm going to give a summary of this first, and then we'll talk about the opinion. So basically, I am paraphrasing and using layman terms here. They took the old Living Legend points, and they basically, which is this first bracket, and they hyper accelerated a lot of it. So World Championship used to be 200 points. Now it's 300 points for the hero that wins it. Pro Tour used to not give any pro points at all. Now it gives 200 Living Legend points. Callings stay at 100. Or pro points, no change. So now they give 200. So sorry, not that they did it before, but they give 200 as of now. Calling still gives 100. US Nats still gives 100. The biggest change, I think, is even though National Championship did not change at 40 points for greater than 96 players, what did change was Battle Hardens. All Battle Hardens now go from 10 points to 40 Living Legend points, which means they are weighing Battle Hardens the same as a national championship in terms of Living Legend points, with the exception of the U.S. National Championship. We'll go down the list here, and then we'll talk about initial thoughts. Any national championship under 96 player cap has 10 Living Legend points. Then they also changed a pro tournament invitational. It used to be 4 points. Now it is 20 points, which I actually like that a lot. Pro Quest, no change, still at 4 points. Road Nationals, no change, still at 4 points. Skirmish events went from 2 to 4, which is why Blitz heroes are going to Living Legend a lot faster. So essentially they did this. In the text, they talk basically how the metas can be stale at times if heroes do not rotate quickly enough. And what they want is they are trying to have new meta games, opening new possibilities to innovate. Our wonderful times to be a TCG player. We want these opportunities to happen more often in Flesh and Blood. So they want the meta game to change faster. They also said that they are going to be adding weekly living legend checks, which means normally the only time a hero ascended into living legend was during a ban and suspension announcement. Now that's literally going to be checked every single week, which is something we're going to get into in a second. So essentially now, if a hero wins the World Championship and a Pro Tour, half of their living legend points are accumulated. So what does this mean? In the early term, one, heroes are going to live in legend faster. Even if they balance the game, they just are. The format is going to rotate faster. It's going to be a more dynamic format. There's going to be lots of changes, not like unable to keep up, but a lot more changes than there has been. Currently, right, we have, if we go to articles, or not articles, but games here, and we go to living legend, in the first 4 years of the game, we have had what? We've had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 living legends. I suspect that we'll have that almost yearly now. We'll probably have 3 to 4 heroes living legend a year, if not 5. That's just my take. Now, this aligns with what they're wanting to do this upcoming year. In 2024, they are releasing 15 heroes over 4 sets. That's a lot. So they're trying to keep up with this kind of ever-expanding thing that they're doing. So I'm going to break this down to several things. I also talked about this on DM Armada's live stream last night. I'll link that down in the description below. Definitely go check that out. Me, DM Armada, and Breezy all talked about it for about 2 hours. It was really fun time, so definitely check that out. But my overall opinion is LSS is kind of betting on themselves with this, and I said this last night. They're betting on themselves with this new format. Currently, Fab has the highest barrier to entry of any rotating TCG, money-wise. It just does. There's only, 2-3 decks under $500, competitive top-level decks. Bolton's the cheapest at like $270. And when you compare that to other trading card games, and I have the data to back this if anyone doesn't agree, One Piece, the most competitive top One Piece decks are typically around $200 to $300 tops. There might be one outlier like the yellow deck, but overall, most of the decks are around $200. Grand Archive, about $200. Pokemon obviously is super cheap. Magic Standard, even Magic Standard decks are not that expensive, a couple $100. Any rotating format, you don't see super expensive decks. Flesh and Blood, and I'm going to do a video on this week, the average cost for a competitive Flesh and Blood deck right now as of October of this year is $687. The average cost. That's too high. And they need to have it down because, in my opinion, if heroes are LLing super fast, but there's a high barrier to entry to buy into these heroes, then it's going to be hard to convince new players to do this unless, and we'll talk about this in a second, they expand the Living Legend format. Because if I tell somebody, hey, you should buy into Dash, right? Dash right now, even not even Dash, that's a bad example. She's pretty close. Let's say even Bravo. Bravo is a fantastic example. Bravo is at 484 Living Legend points as of this week. Now, that's only halfway there. But if Bravo were to somehow eke out a Pro Tour win and maybe even Worlds, he's now, 16 points away from Living Legend? Like, that's insane, right? And now that Battle Hardens are 40 points and all this other stuff, like, you could Living Legend really fast. So if I want to tell someone, like, you like Bravo, you should buy into Bravo, but Bravo could be gone in 6 months, that feels a little bad. So how do they combat this? This is my opinion. This is not what I haven't heard anything of what else is doing. This is literally just my, tin hat theory. I think that Living Legend format is going to expand to the point where it is as popular and as big as Classic Constructed. I think Classic Constructed will stay as the premier format by far. We're in agreement on that. However, I think if Classic Constructed is the tier 1 format, Living Legend is tier 1.5 because that is the way that you get people to buy into this high cost barrier to entry title and not feel bad about it, right? Like right now, if Living Legend, let's say Living Legend format, let's just fast forward a year, but we keep the same heroes. Let's say Living Legend format is a super popular format. It's at calling level events. There's good prizing towards it, good prestige towards it. It's held from a marketing perspective almost as high as Classic Constructed, so it's actually worth winning. And then you tell someone Dromai is at 568 points, or even Icelander. Icelander's at 932 points. She's about to Living Legend. However, you can still buy into her because if you want to play her in Living Legend format, you can, and you can go to callings, you can have fun, you can do all that stuff, right? It also allows someone to have a good Living Legend hero that they highly identify with and a regular hero. So I think that's going to be kind of like the key point for them. They need to expand the Living Legend format. If they don't, my initial gut reaction to this change is it's bad because new players are not going to want to buy into the game at a competitive level if their hero could possibly be gone in 6 months. Yes, you'll still have a hyper-competitive audience that's still going to do it, but if you're wanting to expand this game, if you're wanting to make it actually rival the big three like Yu-Gi-Oh! And Pokemon and Magic, you're going to have to find a way to make the barrier to entry more fun. Because right now, unless they change it in the next couple of years, which they could, the market positioning for Flesh and Blood as a card game is highly competitive TCG. That's why people come to it, right? That is the segment of the market that they have taken a hold of and just grabbed. That's what they're known for. So if you're going to do that, you have to find a way to keep players interested in that, right? But if they expand the Living Legend format size and importance, it can be very good both for balancing because we have an ever-changing metagame in CC, but also a very fun and prestigious format in Living Legend. So that's my first thoughts on it. My second point is, and this is kind of a minor one, it's not really like a main point, but I find it funny. They are holding Battle Hardens with this new change. They are holding Battle Hardens in the same light as a national championship with over 96 players. So if the Canadian National Championship has 180 players, right, and then a Battle Harden has 70, they both hold the same Living Legend points. Now, I'm not saying it's good or a bad thing. I just find it very interesting because, in my opinion, national championships should be like one level above Battle Hardens. Like if we do a 4-tier event system, let's not count armories. Your tier 1 or your tier 4 events, I go from 4 being the lowest, 1 being the highest. They might do it different. Let's just say 4 is the lowest. 4 is the entry level. Your tier 4 events are skirmishes, ProQuest, and Road to Nationals, right? Your tier 3 events is Battle Hardens, and I would probably say PTIs. Even though they are very good, they're usually smaller in size, which is why I probably put them at tier 3. Tier 2 events from prestige standpoint are national championships and callings. And then your tier 1 events are your pro tours and your world championships. So again, it's not like a bad thing. I just find it interesting that a random Battle Harden with like 70 players can equal as much as like a Canadian Nats, right? Or a UK Nats that has potentially like 200 players in it. It seems a little weird to me, but that's fine. The next topic is weekly Living Legend points. So I see goods and bads of both sides. I understand people that are complaining about it and I understand people that like it. Let's talk about the goods and the bads of it. The bad of it is weekly checks could feel bad if you were not glued to social media or the website, right? I come from two completely different demographics during my Flesh and Blood time. When I first started playing for the first year, I was living in North Carolina on the east coast of the United States. Very small town, not small town, sorry. Decent-sized city, Wilmington, North Carolina. But we only had 2 stores that carried the game. And only one store was really known for playing the game in an hour-and-a-half radius. And on a good night, we would get 8 people. Super, super casual. Super fun. People weren't really in tune with everything going on in the meta. People would watch an event here and there, but really it was just for fun. Those type of markets, the weekly checks could feel bad. Someone could bring like their favorite Dromai deck, and then someone's like, oh, it's Living Legend, right? Or not even Dromai. Like, let's take a hero like, let's take a hero like Dash, who's at 698 right now. If Dash wins Worlds and the Calling, she's Living Legend. So someone could take a holiday break, come in January, and someone's like, yeah, Dash, I know she was at 700 Living Legend points, but she won 2 big events, and now she's not allowed to be played anymore in CC. Sorry. That's a feels bad. Now, does that make someone quit the game? I don't know. But it could be a feels bad for people who show up to the LGS if they're not connected with social media and the website, and you tell them that they can't play their hero. So because of the hyper speed that heroes now can gain Living Legend points, that's a little bit interesting. The other bad of it is in the heart of ProQuest season, some people travel, right? And this is more of a hyper-competitive player issue, not a casual player competitive issue. But let's say during skirmish season, for example, we'll even use Blitz. Skirmish season, for example, upcoming, we have 2,000 points being allocated. Now, let's say I'm in Dallas and I'm going to travel for a week and a half, right, or a week, and I'm going to go to Louisiana, then I'm going to go up to Oklahoma, then I'm going to go down. I'm going to do in 3 events. And let's say during the weekly check, Chain gets Living Legend. That means I have to pack 2 decks now because my first deck could potentially Living Legend by the time I do my second set of things. I personally think it should be by season. I think it should be at the end of each ProQuest season, at the end of each skirmish, like at the end of each major competitive season, there should be a check. I don't think it should be weekly, because then also you have to be able to, if I'm a Katsu player and I'm planning for Dromai and she Living Legends, now I got to change my deck on the fly on a week-to-week basis. Now, they might see that as a good thing, and that's fine. Some people actually might see it as a great competitive thing of hey, you got to be able to be ready to change. But if you're playing the top decks, if you're a highly competitive player, having to basically bring 2 decks just in case, that kind of sucks. Especially because there's certain times during the year, and this is another thing, and I know I'm kind of going all over the place with this, is there's been certain competitive seasons, like this past season, we had the Calling Dallas on the same weekend as ProQuest Season 1. So, right, if let's just say there wasn't in this case, but let's say a hero was, actually Lexi was, I think, one big event away from Living Legend, you don't know, if you are going to be playing that hero on ProQuest Season 2 now, or ProQuest Week 2, right? Because it could Living Legend at the Calling, and then that's it, right? Even if you don't have a set ban suspension announcement now it's weekly. If one big event happens to fall in the same week as the initial week of a ProQuest season or of a Road National season, now you have to switch decks mid-season because the hero won one big event, right? Or let's say a hero's at 830 or something, and you have a Pro Tour event the second weekend of ProQuest season, which is highly possible. Now you're going to have to change halfway through because that hero won one big event. That's feels bad to me. If I had my choice, I would personally just put the Living Legend check at the end of each at the start and beginning of each competitive season. So this past ProQuest season, there would have been a check before the Calling Dallas, 2 weeks before the Calling Dallas. Then there would have been a check this past weekend or this past Monday. I don't think you need to do weekly checks, but I understand why they're doing weekly checks. It helps because the main reason they're doing weekly checks, in my opinion, is this. These 5 heroes, look how many points they accumulated over 1,000 because they were able to continue to win even after they had hit Living Legend. Bravo has 582 extra. Briar has 158, so that's 682, 720. I'm estimating here. Lexi has over 100, so let's say 820. Lexi has 276. That's 1,100 extra points. Oldheim makes around 12 to 1,300. So there's around 1,400 extra Living Legend points that could have been allocated to other heroes. That's a whole other hero and a half worth of Living Legend points. We could potentially have a whole nother hero Living Legend by this point if they would have done the weekly checks. So I understand what they're trying to do, because that also does look bad, right? If you want this Living Legend system to kind of be your benchmark on rotation, it has to be consistent, right? We can't allow Starvo to gain 582 extra Living Legend points. That should have went to something else, right? So I understand why they did it, and I understand the positives of it. So at the end of the day, I'm not married to it one way or another. The next thing is the purpose of the new system. So the wording of the article for me seems like they want to move into a new ever-expanding metagame. Some people have said this sucks for specialists, because if you like a hero and it Living Legends really quickly, that sucks, and it sucks to buy into. If they do not expand the Living Legend format, I agree with you. It sucks. But if they expand the Living Legend format, I think this is okay for specialists. Because if Katsu Living Legends, I'll just keep playing them in Living Legend format, and then I'll play my next favorite hero in CC, right? I think that comes with the territory. Now, if they don't have an expanded Living Legend format, then yes, I think it sucks for specialists. It feels really bad. Honestly, this is my one emphatic statement of this whole thing. This whole change, it also could already be changed again in the future. We don't know that. But this all depends on Living Legend format. If Living Legend format, say it 10 times, happens to be a tier 1.5 format, and it's able to be marketed and pushed and played from Battle Hardened all the way up to Callings, and even at Worlds, I personally think it should be a Worlds format next year, but we'll see, instead of draft. But that's just my opinion for fun. I think this is amazing, because then you have an ever-shifting, nearly never stale metagame in CC, and you have a super fun way for people to keep playing their favorite heroes in Living Legend, and it actually matters because they're playing them in armories, they're playing them at callings, things of that nature. I think that's good. If they do not expand that format, then I think that this change is actually extremely bad, because, frankly, and I hope Actually, I hope someone from else is watching. Like, the game is too expensive to tell people right now, unless you find a way to lower the price. The game is too expensive right now to tell people to switch decks every 2 months if you're trying to play the best deck. The game is also too expensive for me to play what hero should be safe, like a Bravo, only halfway there. But if he Living Legends in 6 months, then I just lost my favorite hero, and now I got to buy into a new hero, and then I got to buy into a new hero, and so on and so forth. So that feels bad. So I guess that's my one last final point is it all depends on the Living Legend format. If they can get that going, it's in great shape. I love this change. If they don't market that format the way they should, I think this change is really bad for the game. But at the same time, I don't know LSS's plans. I don't know everything they're planning on doing. They have stuff in the works that we don't know about. And at the end of the day, whether you agree or disagree with it, always assume noble intent. They want this game to be successful. They want you to have fun with it. They're not trying to make ways for you to have to, not be able to play it. They understand how expensive the game is. They understand how much of a tax it is, even if you have the money to find a new hero to play. They understand all that. They're players themselves. They love this game. Like, hearing the LSS guys cast the call in Melbourne, you can feel the energy they have for the game, right? So try to look at it with open mind. Try to look at it with a wait-and-see approach, a positive approach. If you don't like it, you don't like it, and you're entitled to have that opinion. They want to hear your feedback, but just be careful on it, right? But yeah, overall, I'm not too upset with it. I'm kind of a wait-and-see. Let's see how things play out the next 6 months. The 15 new heroes next year is also another wild card. That's a lot of heroes, a lot of sets, 4 sets, basically a set every quarter. So ever-changing metagame. That should be fun. But yeah, if you like this type of content, please leave a like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what your comments are down below about this new update. I'd love to hear your thoughts on it, positive and negative. Just make it constructive if it's negative. But yeah, leave a like, comment, subscribe. We're close to 3K subs. If not me, though, it's totally fine. Go to another creator, make the end of the year worthwhile. Leave a like and comment and subscribe on their stuff so we can get more people seeing this game, get more people having opinions on it, grow the game, make it bigger. And yeah, I'll see y'all next time on TCG Talk. Thank y'all so much.